All right, I'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you everyone for joining me today. My name is Dan Reed. I am the marketing and admin manager for SCORE Maine. I also hold a few other titles that I'll get into here in just a moment, and I want to welcome you to Marketing on a Budget. This is a workshop provided by SCORE Maine, a small business mentoring service funded in part by the SBA, where we provide free and no-cost services such as workshops like this and small business mentoring one-on-one with volunteer business mentors. And my name is Dan Reed. I'm the marketing and admin manager here at SCORE Maine. I'm also the social media marketing strategic advisor for a SCORE chapter in Connecticut called SCORE Fairfield County. I'm also the board member and the marketing co-chair for a young professionals group in Portland called Propel, and a board member and marketing chair for another nonprofit in the Portland area called the Portland Media Center. So I have a pretty diverse background in marketing for both nonprofits and small businesses, and really a good background in marketing for on a budget. I just wanted to cover kind of the goals that we're going to have for this workshop today. We're going to try to go for a basic understanding of marketing on a very low, like 30,000 foot level. Gain a basic understanding of what an ideal customer is and how to identify and reach out to your ideal customers. The do's and don'ts of marketing when you're first getting started, and different advertising options for that low budget marketing. So just to kind of provide a very base level, what is marketing anyway? Marketing is how a business or a nonprofit or really anyone reaches out to an audience about their idea or their product or their service. And businesses have a few kinds of audiences. So when you think about marketing, you might think of like your Facebook audience or your Instagram audience, but really we're thinking in this way, we're trying to think more about how engaged someone is with your business or with your nonprofit or your idea. And I really kind of break this down into three different groups. You have your evangelists, and those are people who are really invested in your product. Maybe they've tried it a few times and they absolutely love it. These are the folks who regularly refer your product to others, and other people learn about your product through their engagement, either via social media or in person. Then we have in your orbit. So these are people who know about your product. Maybe they have liked your Facebook page, or they've liked your Instagram profile, or they've seen some kind of marketing that you've put out there, or they've tried your product a few times. They might not be those kinds of people who go out there and really refer and convert other people to your product, but they're people who have used your product or they're very aware of it. And then we have the last audience, and this is one of the people, or one of the audiences that people really think about when they think about marketing, and those are people that are out of your orbit. So these are people who've never heard of your product, they're not familiar with you for one reason or another, and these are people that you want to hear about your product and that you're very interested in contacting when you do kind of marketing outreach. And every audience is going to respond differently to the marketing that you put out there. So when you make a post, you want to think who in my audience is actually going to be seeing this post? And am I making this post to try to get evangelists a little more interested in converting someone else and give them like a method to do so? Or am I doing this post to really introduce someone who's never seen my product before to my product and to my business? And to really understand how to do that, you really need to know your business from the top down. You need to understand who are the likely people to purchase your product. What do you sell? Are you a product-driven business, such as a company that might produce sporting equipment? Or are you a service-based business that might be more like your restaurants or a marketing consultant, for example? Or are you an experience-based business? And that's going to be more like your folks who sell an Airbnb, or people who might sell tickets to a zoo, or some other thing where you're really an escape room, where you're really going for an experience. And what other businesses, are there other businesses that your customers purchase from that they do so regularly? So a good example for this might be if you are a local coffee shop, there's a good chance that a lot of people who patronize your business also patronize other Main Street businesses as they walk there. And how do your customers see your business? In those three different groups, your evangelists, your in orbit, and your out of orbit, have they heard of you before? What do they think about you when they hear of you? What are their initial impressions? A good example with SCORE is a lot of people's initial impressions with SCORE is that they can meet with someone to talk about their business plan, when in reality, SCORE also provides other kinds of mentorship for the long haul. And we also do workshops just like this one. So the other end of the spectrum is, you know, your business and you've gotten a good handle on what you provide and what that means to someone who's outside of your business. Now you need to know your customer. So who is out of all the customers you have, who are the customers that are the best customers for you? Maybe they're the customers that do repeat purchases, or maybe they're the customers where they don't require a lot of customer service after purchase. Or maybe they're the customers that are super involved in your product. It really depends on your business, but you really want to kind of focus in on which kind of customer is really a good one for your business. You'll want to find out where your customers spend their time. So this isn't just where they spend their time at work or in their office. This is what social media platforms do they engage with? When do they engage with those social media platforms? Is it the right time? And that leads into, when are they in the right mindset? So if you're really looking to sell to a purchasing agent at a larger company, they're probably not going to be thinking about their duties as a purchasing agent when they're sitting down for dinner and they're on Facebook. They're probably more likely to think about it when they're on LinkedIn during their workday. And how much contact is too much? So everyone has a business that they've subscribed to their newsletter in the past, and they just got way too many emails and they've unsubscribed from it. That's an example of too much contact. So what's that sweet spot somewhere between posting too much and posting too little that's just right for your audience? And the example that we're going to use today is a yoga studio. It's a fake yoga studio in Biddeford, Maine. So this person wants to open a yoga studio in Biddeford. They want to offer yoga classes in an exercise space in a way where they kind of offer both the service of a yoga class and the experience of a community space and a community gathering space for people who are interested in similar things, such as healthy living. So we'll start with the beginning, know your business. What kind of product or service or experience do you provide as a yoga studio? Well, you're providing that service of teaching a class, and you're also providing that experience of community. Who are going to be your main customers? So in this instance, we'll say that this is a local yoga studio. So they're really focused on the local people who live around them within a 20 to 30-minute range. And they're focused on appealing to community members. There are yoga studios or yoga operations that might do things like business retreats, but that's outside of this one. So we're going to go with business to customer. So what do similar businesses do to advertise their business? So a lot of similar businesses advertise on Instagram and social media. And who do I know that makes an ideal customer for my yoga studio? In this example, we're going to use a fake person, Abby. So how can knowing someone who might be interested in our business product, or in this example, yoga studio, be helpful in moving forward? Well, that helps with knowing our customer. So Abby can help determine some things around what we call demographics and some things around what we call psychographics. And these are the two ends of the spectrum when you're creating an ideal customer profile. Demographics are going to be those kind of hard data points that we're used to hearing about, things like age, location, education level, occupation. And your psychographics are going to be more those kind of human elements. And what I mean by that are what kind of goals and motivations they have, what kind of frustrations they experience in their life, and what kind of hobbies do they have, are there interests that they have, those kind of like soft points rather than hard points. And that'll let us build an ideal customer profile. So we have an example of what an ideal customer profile looks like here. And don't worry, I'm going to send out a blank template of this one and an expanded ideal customer profile or ideal customer canvas in the follow-up email for this workshop. So for this one, we just kind of wrote down a few details that we have about our friend Abby, and to try to find some answers related to our business. We want to also try to understand why customers are making buying decisions, what specific things are leading them to say, this is something that I want to spend my money on. And this process can be as complex or as simple as you need. What it really comes down to is how comfortable are you with understanding who your ideal customer is. And as I said, this template will be made available. So our friend Abby is a woman who's 25 with no children. She's a renter and she really listens to a lot of music on the radio. She has a lot of sustainability and healthy living goals, and she's really interested in looking and meeting for new friends and shopping local. She lives in Biddeford, works in Portland as a barista, and she's also a musician on the side. And some of the things that are pain points for her or reasons why she would want to spend money are to stay healthy, exercise, and to meet new people. And we would also want to ask Abby questions like, what kind of radio stations do you listen to? Or do you watch a lot of TV? Or do you spend more time on Instagram and Facebook, so that we can get some information on the platforms that Abby might spend time on, which gives us a good idea of what platforms we might want to do ad spend on. So Abby listens to a lot of Hot Radio Maine, spends a lot of time on Instagram. When she does watch TV, she watches HGTV, and she spends a lot of time on TikTok and going to local music venues and local coffee shops. So this is an expanded version of an ideal customer profile that just gives us a little bit of a more options as far as writing things down and categorizing things. So with this, it's laid out so that your demographics or your hard data points are more on the left, and your softer data points are going to be more on the right. And that's between demographics and psychographics. And it has a lot of the same information. And this is also a template that will be made available in the follow-up email for this workshop. So we saw a lot of this information. How do we actually action any of it? So we have some understanding of who our ideal customer is, or at least one set of information from our friend Abby. What's the next step? A lot of times the next step then looks like, how do I find out if other people like Abby live in my neighborhood or live in my town? So the best place to do that is actually, there are a lot of free resources from local libraries. And my favorite library in the state that can help with this is the Bangor Public Library. Anyone in the state of Maine can get a Bangor Public Library card. And that library card provides you access to different databases online that you can log into right through the Bangor Public Library website, including Gale business databases, data Axle reference solutions, and consumer reports. I've included some information on this slide, which will also be distributed after the class or after the workshop to a librarian in the Bangor Public Library. You can always help as well. So what kind of information can we get from these databases? That data can look like this. This is an existing already complete psychographic profile. So kind of all of those soft points mixed in with some of the demographics that shows from Gale Business Demographics Now, that shows a profile that I felt really fit our friend Abby. So actually we have a good understanding of who we're going for with this data that was made available through the public library. We can get an idea of how many people who fit this profile live within the area that we'd like to establish our studio. Another report that you can do through Gale Business Data is MAPS data, and this will provide you with some information. This is a heat map of people who match are influenced by influencers' demographic data or psychographic profile that matches Abby, and where those people live in relation to Biddeford. And what you'll see here is in the core of downtown Biddeford, there are a lot of folks who match this demographic, and there are also a lot of people in Portland and South Portland. So how exactly does having this data help, right? So we went to the library, we have this data, we understand that it at least matches the people that we're looking for, but how can we actually use it? Darker areas indicate more or areas where your audience is more likely to live. So it allows you to do things like pick a location for your yoga studio if you haven't already. It allows you information on where you could post flyers or look for other businesses that that your ideal customers shop at. If you're interested in sending mailers, this is a great way to know that the people that you're looking to reach actually live in the area that you're sending mailers to. You can do advertising on social media that's geography bound. So not only can you put in those data points on demographics and psychographics to limit your post advertising, but you can also advertise in a geographic area that's actually going to have the people that you're looking for. This will also allow you to do things like pick a radio station where they might listen. And as I mentioned before, find those co-marketing partners or other businesses that also reach your target audience. And that data really helps pick that platform. So it helps you understand if your target audience member is going to be tech savvy. So should you have a website or how complex your website should be, or how much or what social media platforms you should be on. It allows you insight into who opens their mail and who doesn't, whether or not you should be sending text messages or putting up flyers in a neighborhood. It can give you a lot of insight into many of the traditional and what's seen as like normal marketing avenues, as well as your digital marketing avenues. And one thing to really keep in mind is not all platforms are good for every business. And we'll get into that a little more with our yoga studio example in a few slides. So how do you know which platforms are best? That's always the big question. You don't want to just go on and post on 5 different platforms. You really want to make sure that the platform you're posting on, they're in the right mindset. So we'll go back to our purchase order or purchasing order example earlier. If you're looking to reach out to someone who deals with purchase orders, when they're at home eating dinner, they're not in the right mindset to really be communicated with about your product. Can you envision your ideal customer using this platform? A good example of this might be if we're doing our yoga studio, or actually we'll get to that example in just a second. So a good example of this for our purchasing order platform might be, is this person might be in the right mindset when they're on LinkedIn, but does that mean when they're browsing Instagram or TikTok, they want to see a video about a product that they might deal with at work? How do they engage with this platform? Are they on LinkedIn at work, or are they in LinkedIn at home? Are they on Instagram at work or home? Is this a podcast that they listen to? Do they do it in the car? How can they then follow up on that information? Are they in the right headspace, and can they follow up after they've started listening and engaging with your media on that platform? And another one is, can you envision your brand on this platform? A lot of people, like a good test for this one is actually using something like MySpace, which is good for music nowadays, but can you envision your yoga studio on MySpace? Probably not. And another one is similar to how we went through with Abby in our example. Don't be afraid to ask someone close to you who fits your ideal customer profile if they watch TV or use Facebook, use Instagram, listen to the radio. Those are going to be some of your key indicators that allow you to understand which direction you should start with your research. So we get back to our example of the yoga studio. Which platform or which form of media do you think is really going to connect with the audience that we're looking for a yoga studio? What's really going to capture their attention? A direct mailer or a flyer? Direct mailers come when the mail comes. They're in home. It's individualized exposure. So that means that it's being sent to a specific person with their name on it. And you can even customize some of your printing to that on that level. Direct mailers can be pretty expensive, and they're mixed with bills and ads. A flyer is something that can be put up anytime, or it can be seen by the potential client anytime. It's usually something that's done in community. So a direct mailer they receive in their mailbox versus a flyer where they might see on the wall at their coffee shop. It provides general exposure. So it's just anyone who comes up can see it. And if they don't see it, then they don't see it. Flyers can be very inexpensive as far as actual cost, but can be expensive in terms of time. So going to set up a flyer, checking on them, making sure that if it's a timely flyer, such as for a class, you're taking it down after the class and putting up the next one. And they can be located directly in the areas that your ideal customer profile spends their time. So in my area, in my opinion, while there might be some upsides and downsides to both methods, I think for a yoga studio, putting up flyers in those kind of third space areas like coffee shops is probably going to do a lot more or you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck than doing a direct mailer, which might be a lot more expensive. And in that same line of thinking, what social media platform would be good for a yoga studio? Do you think it's going to be somewhere like Instagram or somewhere like LinkedIn? Instagram has a younger audience. It's much more image focused rather than text focused, and it's very personal. And LinkedIn has a slightly older audience. It's very story driven, and it's very much so focused on business life rather than personal life. So I think for the particular yoga class and yoga studio that we're going for, Instagram is probably a much better option. It allows us to really get to our target audience and allows us to display our business in a way that's a lot more likely for them to see it during a point in time where they'll make that kind of buying decision. So then we get to the big thing, organic versus paid platforms. And this is where ad spend and money really starts getting thrown around. An organic platform is low cost or free. And this is like a way to think about an organic platform is your Facebook, Instagram, social media, just doing normal posts. They require more time. A flyer is another example of an organic platform. It usually requires more of a time commitment. So you have to create the content and post it regularly. And you need to have a really good understanding of how to connect with your ideal customer. And that way you can keep engagement going through those organic posts and organic platforms. And organic platforms are really good for a long-term strategy. So it's how to build that base of evangelicals or build that base of in-orbit engagement and in-orbit audiences with your potential future clients. Paid platforms are instant reach. So this is spending dollars directly to get eyeballs on the content that you're looking to promote. It's usually very fast with quick turnover. A good example would be Facebook ads tend to last less than 2 weeks, and they tend to drive a lot of traffic in that period in time. A strong customer profile directly helps with your targeting, but it's not required. So Facebook has a built-in feature that will kind of allow it to automatically target people who like your profile or similar people who like your profile. But it's not quite as good, in my opinion, as actually getting specific details from an ideal customer profile and plugging those in. In my experience, I've gotten a lot better results by about 20 to 30% than using the built-in Facebook feature. And paid outreach is typically best done for short-term results. The more you rely on paid outreach as a long-term strategy, the more expensive it's going to become for your business. And a good marketing strategy is going to use a combination of these two things. So it's going to have a good organic posting workflow or content development, and it's also going to use paid outreach in order to kind of maximize the reach and to grow your audience outside of your in-orbit and your evangelical audience. So some tips for getting started with organic social media. You'll want to respond to every comment like everyone is watching. And what I mean by that is if you get a review where it's a negative review or someone posts something that's just blatantly false about your business, you don't want to respond to that person as if you're responding to them. You want to respond to that person as if you're planning your response for the people who are going to read that who don't know you or that person. So you're really aiming to respond to a lot of comments, especially critical comments, from the viewpoint of you're really saying what you're saying to appeal to a person who's just kind of stumbling upon this interaction. You also want to be authentic. Talk like you talk in person. Talk like the person you are in person. This allows your audience to really connect with something that feels real. People are very quick to feel something or feel out something that doesn't feel natural or feel authentic. You'll want to always use photos or videos. There's no reason to only do a text post. In 2023, there are so many tools available to provide an image, not only smartphones, but things like Canva. And organic social media is fantastic for co-marketing, and that's essentially utilizing those other businesses that also your ideal customer would also shop at. It's a great way to expand your reach to a group of people who are likely to buy your product or service. For organic websites, for the majority of businesses that are just getting started, especially just getting started, a one-page website that's a business card style website that just has basic contact information and basic information about your services is enough to get started. You might need to expand on that, and there's certain businesses that might need more than that. For a lot of companies, that's enough. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have a physical presence, a point of sale system can usually comes with email marketing software, and it will also sometimes come with page building software or landing page software that can kind of take that place of an organic website in the beginning. And if you need more information out there, if you feel like a basic business card website isn't enough for you, then I would really strongly recommend blogging, especially if you really like writing a lot of content about something, the business that you're doing, because you're passionate about it. A blog is a great way to, over time, really build up that Google rating. And that brings us to co-marketing. And co-marketing is a strategy that businesses who don't have a lot of ad spend can really gain a lot of leverage from, and especially small businesses. And this is when two businesses collaborate on a goal. And that goal can be pretty much anything, but the end result is to market to another curated audience. So this is how do I reach out to someone else's evangelical audience, and how do they reach out to mine, especially if it's a good fit. It also provides you credibility to your brand through collaborating with another brand that they already believe in. It's usually low cost or free, and it can look like just doing social media posts for one back and forth with one another, tagging one another, maybe doing an event or a shared event with that business. And you want to co-market and select your co-marketing partners with your ideal customer in mind. So you really want to identify people who are already selling to the folks that you want to sell to, and then reach out to them and build that relationship. And this is really great for building not only your in orbit, but also your evangelical orbit. So here are a couple examples of what co-marketing can look like in different forms. The first one we have is Yego Coffee of Boston and Time and Tide of Biddeford, Maine. They hosted a kind of workshop style discussion on coffee sourcing and supply lines in the industry. And they both have a very local presence where they're located in Boston and in Biddeford. So this allowed other people who would be very interested in their evangelical orbit, who might be very interested in the coffee process, to learn about a new brand who's not a direct competitor. And folks who from Time and Tide and folks from Yego were able to then try that other coffee and possibly make a longer term purchasing decision in regards to that. And that also brings a level of credibility by working with other people in your field. And an example of kind of outside of your field, working with another business, we have Lucky Pigeon Brewing in Biddeford. Used to host a yoga instructor to come in on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings to provide a basic yoga class. And so Lucky Pigeon Brewing brews gluten-free beers. So they're kind of in that health food style area that gluten-free exists in, and that makes it a good crossover audience. And then that brings us to paid ads. And paid ads can take many different forms, and they provide many different benefits. TV commercials, for example, can be very expensive, but they provide a massive amount of credibility to anyone in your audience who sees it. If someone sees your brand on a TV commercial, they then afterwards don't ever think, oh, is this a real company or a big enough company? It's almost always assumed that it's a big company. And on kind of the other end of the spectrum, newspapers are incredibly local. They provide a level of credibility, but you can really target specifically older demographics, but also target geographically with newspapers. And there are social media ads, which also have very good targeting, and they can also be much more affordable, but they usually don't have the same size and scope of impact as something like a TV commercial. And then it just kind of goes on from there. There are many, many different ways to do paid advertising. What really comes down to is understanding how your target audience interacts with any of these methods that might be paid advertising. So here's an example of how you can use your ideal customer profile for social media. And this is how we get into that actually saving some money when we're doing startup marketing. On many platforms, and this is a screenshot of Facebook or the Meta Business Suite, which also advertises on Instagram. You can directly enter demographic and psychographic data into your audience details to run ads on boosted posts. And what this really looks like is you can see that we can do geographic location locking. We can do an age bracket that we're looking for, and gender, which are all demographic details. And we can also add interests such as yoga, hot yoga, iced coffee, or a healthy diet. And these are all psychographic details. And that really narrows down the number of people who are going to see this ad and increase the chance that those people are going to click on the ad and then book a session with one of your yoga classes. And that's really how you can take that ideal customer profile that we started with in the beginning and utilize it in a paid ad scenario. These kinds of ideal customer profiles are also great to provide to your traditional media platforms. So if you're working with someone who's a media buyer at a TV or radio station, providing your ideal customer profile gives them great insight into when and where they should place those ads. You'll also have time to, with traditional platforms such as TV, radio, and print, you also have to decide whether or not you want to create your own media, or many times these businesses also have teams in which will create the TV commercial or radio ad for you. And that's a decision that you have to make that typically also involves additional cost. And that right there wraps up our workshop on startup marketing on a budget. Please feel free to use the Q&A panel, and we will move into answering questions from here on. So we have a question already in the Q&A panel from Teresa. What does story-driven mean? I believe that was in reference to the LinkedIn post or LinkedIn posting. On LinkedIn, when you look at a lot of posts, they're usually very driven from the seat of perspective of a person. It's not usually just an image. It's usually an image, and it's usually a lot of text, and it's usually about how that person is engaging with something that's happening in the business world or in their work. And that's much more story driven than something where if you're on Instagram and it's just a very aesthetic photo of, for example, some coffee being roasted, there might be an additional text post to that. But typically when people are engaging with Instagram, they're engaging with it to see the photos and then make comments. And when they're engaging with their LinkedIn, they're engaging with the story that someone's posting on there and kind of how they can relate to that story. It's a good question. From Yvonne, is it better to @mention on IG or tag? What are the benefits of each? Honestly, I've never seen specific data one way or another as far as @mentioning or tagging on Instagram. I would say that @mention might be a little better because of the way the notification shows up for them to then engage with. But I haven't really seen anything one way or another that proves one is better than the other. Good question. What experiences or platforms are best for having someone feel like they are pleasantly surprised to discover your offering? That's a good question, Tom. And that kind of goes back to that knowing your customer or knowing your client. You have to really have a good understanding of who your client is and where they spend their time and what mindset they're in when they make those buying decisions to have that pleasant feeling. If you wanted to update the Q&A with a little bit of information on the kind of business that you're in, I might be able to provide a more specific answer on a platform and an approach on that one. Does LinkedIn have an alternative healing market? Never used it before, from Teresa. I've seen some folks on there. I don't know how effective it would be specifically. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I think, again, that would have a lot more to do with who your ideal client is and who you're trying to reach out to within the alternative healing space. A question for Margaret here. Any suggestions for healthcare services? That's a really good one. There are a lot of advertising stipulations around healthcare services and other things like legal services or financial services. And I would start there before starting on your ideal customer profile, so you can at least have a really good understanding of which platforms and what you can post on those platforms makes sense. And then once you have a good understanding of your ideal customer profile, you can go in and then pick the platforms with the limitations that you have available to you and say, I think that it would be best for us to do this approach on this platform because we can at least say things like this that will appeal to our ideal customer profile. You really, for those kind of industries, you really have to be careful with like what you can post on what platform. To answer Aubrey, there will be a recording that is sent out of this workshop, as well as the slide deck, and you'll also receive the ideal customer canvas and ideal customer profile templates. We have a question from Beth here. How many times a week should you post if you're a product-based business? Also stories versus posts on Insta. That is a fantastic question. Instagram in particular, but Facebook is also coming up with this a little bit, is very, very story-driven. Facebook is more post-driven than story-driven, but Instagram is incredibly story-driven as far as engaging with your clients. If you can do a story every day, that would be very beneficial, at least 3 times a week. And for a product, I would probably also post at least 3 times a week. One of the things that you want to worry about is over-posting. If you're posting way too many times, the algorithm will deprioritize you if you're not getting high engagement on every post. A good question from Ralph on Nextdoor. I actually don't have personal experience with advertising or marketing on Nextdoor, so I don't really have anything to weigh in on that in particular, but I do see it as one of those scenarios where they're trying to fill a niche that's a good niche on social media. One of the big things in relation to social media is connecting with your community, and Nextdoor actually really focuses on that, and that might be especially for the businesses that require local interaction, might be a really good advertising space. Yeah, just for for more specific advice, I would definitely reach out to a SCORE mentor and talk to them about it. Obviously, if you think a webinar format or talking about it here isn't good, SCORE mentors do have a really good confidentiality agreement that they have to go through, and that might be a really good place for you to start with speaking on your ideal customers in your industry in regards to advertising to them. Yvonne, do you mind giving me a little bit more information about your business so that I can give a better a better response? Google ads are going to be more effective for specific industries, and Facebook ads for specific industries than not. One good rule of thumb example is if you're a business-to-business provider, then Google ads will probably be a better target than Facebook, because a lot of people engage with Facebook as a person rather than in their seat of experience as through their job or as a representative of their job. Any suggestion for Reiki, emotional freedom, and sound healing focused businesses? I would probably engage with Facebook and Facebook groups. There are a lot of groups in relation to kind of new age, spiritual kind of thoughts. So I would engage in those groups, and I would try to see if there's anything on Facebook groups that's local to you that you could post in and potentially reach out to. Small acreage, diversified farm, native plant nursery is your primary B2C. I would probably advertise, and as a suggestion, I would probably advertise on Google Ads more than Facebook. And I believe there's also a main ag newspaper, that might also be a really good option for that as well. Are there any other questions that we might have? Feel free to use the Q&A panel. Holly, do you want to expand on that a little more? I just want to make sure I understand your question. And while we're waiting for any more questions to roll in, I just want to throw this back out there about SCORE. We offer free mentoring and educations, just like this workshop. We're an SBA partner, so we do receive funding through the Small Business Administration, and that's in part how we make these workshops and mentoring free. And we have around 230 chapters throughout the United States. Oh, okay, Holly. I would definitely look into LinkedIn if you're not already there. LinkedIn is like one of the obvious first steps that I would look for. You want to try to always engage with your clients at that place where their pain points are the highest. And if you're looking to do career coaching, then they're likely going to have their highest pain points while they're actually in their current position at work. And through that, while they're on LinkedIn, in that feeling of, this isn't right for me, I want to do more, being able to see a post like yours might be very helpful in good marketing. I can't give any suggestions on HIPAA compliant marketing, just because it's too narrow for me to give like general suggestions and too specific for me to give general suggestions. I would really engage with whoever your marketing person is on understanding what those compliances are, and then going from there. It's kind of one of those specialized fields where you really want to make sure you get it right the first time. A really good question. Any good platforms for making video and editing content easily? I haven't used it personally, but I hear that Canva is actually very good for basic video editing. And there's also things like if you're going to shoot a story, then just shooting it through Instagram stories is very useful as well. I also sometimes use Adobe Rush, but I have video editing experience, so that might not be best for everyone. I would stick with something that's very simple. There are also some AI tools coming out. One example being Simplified.ai, which is one that I personally use, that provide basic animations that you can use for like short videos that are like 15 seconds long. And you can upload your own assets to then animate. We will actually be having a workshop panel next month on marketing, AI and marketing, and how to utilize AI through marketing. So keep an eye out for that and register for that one. A question from Beth, Google Ads, Facebook/Insta, what do you need to know? How much expertise? It's very complicated on the back end. Beth, it's totally true. It is very complicated on the back end, especially Google Ads, in my opinion. I did provide an example on how to use an ideal customer profile to create Facebook and Instagram ads in this workshop. So I would double check the slides. It gives a good way on how to use your understanding of your ideal customer to kind of create those boosted posts without too much, like going too into the weeds. This one's from Chris. We are a consumer product-based business. Is LinkedIn more B2B? We seem to have more traction on Google Ads and Facebook ads. Should we keep trying, or are we pushing uphill? My suggestion here is I would engage with LinkedIn differently than you would Facebook or Google Ads. LinkedIn, in this instance, is a really good place to reach out to other businesses that might be in a similar manufacturing situation, or might be selling to the same folks, and kind of create those initial contacts for co-marketing. But the majority of your sales are probably LinkedIn is very B2B. So the majority of your sales are probably as a consumer product-based facing business, probably going to be through something like Facebook potentially Instagram, especially if you have a very aesthetic brand and aesthetic based product. LinkedIn would be much better for kind of creating those business connections that can be useful for you. From Tom, if I'm looking for marketing partner or service, how do I find in-screen providers? That's a great question. One good way is just if you know someone who's already in business that you like their marketing, or you think that the way that their marketing is going is very good for them or their business, just ask them for a referral. Asking for a referral can be very powerful, and a lot of people are happy to talk about something that you think they're doing right. So I would really try to look for someone who already has, who's already doing good marketing, and just ask them how they do it and who they go to. From Stacy, are there any workshops or suggestions for gaining more knowledge about SEO optimization? We don't have any workshops on SEO optimization at the local level at SCORE. I do believe if you go to score.org, you can look up SEO optimization, and there are workshops at a national level, and some other chapters might provide them. Personally, in my opinion, if you're dealing with SEO optimization, you're at that point where having a marketing person is really important, and you should be asking them to deal with SEO optimization. That's just my opinion. From Teresa, where do I go to find the workshop? I would also love to get emails and alerts on them. And what is the last video editor that you said? So the last one I mentioned is Adobe Rush, I believe, and that's a part of the Adobe package. Or I might have also been simplified.ai, simplified, and that's an AI style program that's on the web. And you can find that workshop at score.org, our local workshops. You'll also get a follow-up email with a recording from this workshop and the slide deck that will have a link to our upcoming workshops. So you'll just click on the one that sounds interesting and register there. That will include the AI marketing workshop. What marketing methods would be advisable for horse boarding? I think Instagram would actually be really great for this, because a lot of your ideal clients are going to be on Instagram, and you have a lot of content with horses available for Instagram that can be very aesthetic. So even doing something like Meet Today's Horse, where you talk about a new horse that's boarding with you and just showing pictures of new horses all the time, could be a great way to get people to start following your business. And then once they actually have a need for your business, you're top of mind. Yeah, do we have any other questions before we wrap up today? Ton of questions, it's been great. Thank you, everyone, for your kind words. I do appreciate that. From Chris, we added Google Analytics to our site. It's not terribly hard, and it told us a ton about where we're spending money. If you're already spending money on Google Analytics, you should definitely have that available on your website to be able to see where you're starting to spend money. Even if you are just getting started, having a way to look at where your traffic is coming from can be very helpful and inform where you should be putting money. But yes, I do agree with Chris. It's incredibly helpful to have Google Analytics, especially if you're spending money on Google. All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the follow-up email. I'll make sure my email is available in there. And if you are looking to sit down with someone who might have questions, and you might have more questions about marketing, please feel free to register for a SCORE mentor, and it's free. And they do great work helping people in all aspects of business for the life of your business. We help people from the idea stage all the way to selling your business. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You'll also receive a survey to this workshop about this workshop. after the workshop follow-up email. Please fill that out and give us any feedback that you have. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.